And I also want to add too, if you guys have any questions or comments during this time, raise your hand. We're going to kind of talk together here today. I forgot to mention that when we first started. So at any time, if you all want to talk and say something, we're going to do it kind of together today instead of separating it out. So does anybody want to add anything to that as far as the community? What is our responsibility to, and I hope I'm saying it right. I just feel like sometimes we want to punish people forever. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to say that, you did something and now you did your time, and then we still want to punish you, right? So how can we be better as a community to kind of embrace people in a way where we want them to not return and do better and have that community? Might want to add anything to that?
It's just, the stigma that comes with being a ex-offender and coming home, without, people knowing if you did a non-violent crime or a violent crime, just knowing that you're a former inmate, it's like a stigma that comes with it, and they kind of be fearful of that, it's, you just have to, persevere and just push through, and if you want to change your life and become better, you just have to, stick with it,
Yeah.
And family support is very important, right along with community support, because a lot of guys or women that don't have family support, it's harder for them. It's much harder, and I myself was lucky to have great family support. And because when I came home, I told myself I wasn't going back to prison. It ain't, I'm not the type that to have my liberties, taken from me and be told what to do and ask permission for the simple things like going to the bathroom. You got to ask permission as a grown man, But it's just the stigma that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? We just have to, because it's going to happen. I mean, even when I applied for jobs, being a felon, it was difficult. And lucky for me, I started working at a juvenile facility, a privately owned juvenile facility. So the transition from being an inmate to working in that environment was easy. So, I just automatically knew things and knew how to treat the youth, that was locked up, that someone who hasn't experienced what I experienced didn't know, So it was easy for me, and the kids kind of gravitated towards me because I understood that, in situations like that, small things matter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Small things matter, and so, I just, like I said, I told myself I wasn't coming back to prison.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I use it as my testimony. Just that you can have a life after prison.
Yeah.
For me, it starts
Thank you, Chief.
when I go into the prison twice a month, maybe more than that. But for me, it starts there for me. I go in, and I probably talk to 100, 150 people when I'm going into that prison. And we talk to them about how they can be a new creation, how they can change, how they can be different. And that's to me, I speak to them about what God can do to help them in their lives and be different and be a different person and just be brand new. And so I just feel like they get it, right? And that's the start of it as they're getting ready to come out, is that they feel different. They want to be different. They don't want to be the same person. Mm-hmm. So when they get out, that really does help them get, go further as they get out.
I mean, everybody needs somebody to believe in them and believe with them, and so I think that's so important. All the work that you all do in regards to helping people feel that way. When I used to work with children, some of the kids, at such young ages, right? They were already being spoken over as not going to make it in life, right? That they're not going to make it, which is so devastating to me when adults tell children that they won't make it. And so you have these kids that you wonder, and then when you hear later in life that they ended up in the juvenile system or ended up in the jails, you're not surprised because, people have literally kind of spoken that over their life the whole time, and nobody has kind of come in and say, oh no, you can't be different, you can't break this generational thing within your family. And so I think this type of work is so important, where we are sowing those seeds of goodness and also holding people accountable. Like I see nothing wrong with holding people accountable. I think that's important. We all have to be held accountable, but we also can show grace and also show how you can change the path, right? So I think that balance, again, is so important. Okay, so I want to get a little bit more into, and Anne-Marie, maybe you can help with this too, and Scott as well, you know, the correctional institutions, like what, are they preparing people, and I know, G, you spoke about, like, you know, giving resources stuff, but are we preparing people for reentry back into society? Because, you know, I think about people who've been gone for like 20 years. I mean, I can't imagine, 20 years ago, even right now, and I've been walking, you know, the earth, roaming the earth freely. It's changed so much, in just a couple years. And so are we helping people to kind of come back into society in a way where they can make it? Because I think some people, you hear it, they come out and they're like, this is too much. And sometimes they'll reoffend just to go back in something that they are familiar with. And so do you think we're preparing them to re-enter society in a healthy way?
Again, not speaking
Sure.
at the prison level, because
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
not familiar with all that
Well,
programming.
let me just interject really quick, Si, before you go. Sometimes jails, people say, because we know people stay in jail sometime a long time
Oh, yeah.
too, because
Yeah.
I watch cases all the time where, it's years, and they're waiting for a trial
Sure.
date, which I think is insane, but that's a
Sure.
whole nother conversation. But so even with that, in jail, sometimes people are in there for a while.
Yes, so we have many programs and classes that are offered in our jail, from the Forgotten, a ministry, to PA 511, basic skills, and it's going to be expanded upon when we open our recovery pod with the help of Buddy Answer and Adam Whitrow and Joel Hensel, names I think you know, Aaron. So we do try, again, and like I said, when I first became sheriff this year, one of my priorities was the jail, and not having it just be a place where you just stick somebody in there and they sit and rot, and then we put them back into our community and scratch our head when they struggle.
I know.
And, I'm not naive to think that it's going to get, 100% buy-in or success, but if we can, help one not come back, then I do consider that to be a success in that regard. So we do in Midland definitely have daily programs and classrooms, and you can get your GED if you don't have one in there. So it's definitely a priority and a focus. It comes down to staffing and safety and security and things I won't get into here, but it's definitely a priority for me and our administration while I'm sheriff. And real quick, to your point, I have a person, I call him a friend to this day. He's been in prison now. He gets out December 4th. Oh. He's been there for the last 12 years for armed robbery, and he had a substance abuse issue. And he has my number. He hasn't reached out to me yet. He may hear or go visit Mr. Worsley at McFour when he gets out. But through another close friend who talks to him, said that the word he used is terrified, that he's terrified to get out because of the unknowns. He's a skills trade guy. I think we'll be able to align him, with some work. But 12 years, of being in prison, and he deserved to go there for what he did. Robbed a store with robbed a cashier at knife point, and he knows that. And there are things he missed with his kids, and I think he's a changed man, and I believe that, but the word he's using is terrified to get out.
Yeah.
So,
yes. And I will say, Scott, I will give you credit too, because I remember you ran on some of these changes and you're actually doing it. So that is comforting to know, because some people run on things, as we know, and then they don't quite do them, and then it's very disappointing. So I appreciate the fact that you are actually implementing some of these programs that you said that you would. We have a question back there?
Yeah, well,
Or a comment?
I guess a question, comment, whatever, just about society's responsibility. there is a need for that because, like, I ain't been there, but when people have records and you mention felonies, it's really hard for them to get a job. And I just feel like something needs to change with that because maybe that's why they're, repetitive offenders. The man who's terrified. You don't know what to expect when you get out. Things have changed. And if they have changed, mentally and, the error of their ways, they do want to get out and thrive and live and provide. And when somebody's putting an obstacle there because of your past mistake, instead of seeing where you are now and had you learned your lesson and what type of person are you now, it's not fair. And so it's almost like they're making it hard for them to survive out. So then they go back to what they know to survive that got them there in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a real thing. Desperation is a real thing. And, as we know, things are changing in our communities right now as far as what some people are accustomed to, and those changes are happening. And people get desperate, and they do desperate things. And, I remember, talking to parents and especially mothers who did some very, naughty things to make sure their children ate, right? And it was like, okay, yeah, of course that's illegal. We know it's illegal. But then also nobody wants to sit and watch their children starve, right? And when you, to your point in regards to like getting a job, if nobody will hire you, what do you do? Like, what do you do? And so, and then also from the business owner's perspective, I also understand having some caution, right? Like, well, I don't know, are you changed? I don't want you to steal from me if, someone, maybe went to prison for armed robbery, is that still in you? So I understand the concern on both sides, but it's hard for me because I think about people who get desperate and they do stuff and then we punish them again, but it's like, did we give them the opportunity to, yeah.
Well, and I think, right, we also thinking about that idea of purpose and, right, kind of all of our dignity and worth as humans, right? I mean, so maybe there is a job you could get that would earn you a paycheck, but does that really, so cheesy, but I would say, like, what feeds your soul, right? What is the thing that's really going to drive? I remember, this is like a good story. This was many years ago, but in 675, Delta College has like a giant billboard advertising their diesel mechanic program, a giant billboard, and there was a man on there, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's somebody who completed my treatment program. And the next thought was, if they knew his record, would they have allowed him? Maybe, I don't know, right? But it was also like, how cool is that, right? That he was able to, and he was very motivated and a great guy. But if you, on paper, he's a scary dude, right? Like that's, that juxtaposition of, and there was legislation passed here in Michigan, it's called like block the box or ban the box. Basically, the initial application, you can't ask somebody if they have a felony. And so the idea is you could get somebody in front of you to have a conversation, and then you could have a kind of more of an interactive discussion of like, oh, okay, so you do have a record, what was that, and so that there would be more of that human connection.
First, yeah.
Yeah, before you just say, we just kind of sort the applications based on, yes or no felony, and we're done. So that was one legislative effort to try to have more of that human connection in that. But I do think I think there's a lot of fear and othering. And so I think my thing is always like, if you haven't sat across the table from somebody and had a real conversation, if you haven't visited a prison facility to see the conditions,
Of some of them,
it's really hard to then tell me that, this is the way that we're doing things is we're doing right by people. So.
And that was another question, like how do we hold the institutions accountable to making sure they're treating people humane, right? I mean, Midland does have a nice facility. All facilities are not like that, right? And we know that all facilities do not give food that is, not outdated. And some people get mold, and some people, get, I don't know.
Yeah, just like with, with county jails, you have facilities that are newer, that are more modern, and you have some that's very old, just like in the prison system. It's prisons that's very old. Jackson is the, it's like a cast. It's just something that you literally see off TV, as opposed to going to a regional like how Saginaw Freeland is, where you have different levels, confinement levels, level 4, level 1, and then the unsecured level 1. But it just it's rough. It's rough because prison is such an unnatural environment, because we wasn't created to be around a bunch of men all day, every day. So unnatural things happen. But it's just that you have to make up in your mind, like I did. Like I was sentenced I went to prison for a nonviolent drug crime. And even though I may feel, okay, it's nonviolent, I shouldn't have to deal with something that somebody that committed a violent crime. But like Sheriff said, he had a friend that, it was substance abuse. So even though, mine is nonviolent, but his problem started with me, because I may have sold him drugs to where he couldn't go buy them, so he resorted to robbing somewhere and going to prison. So, and when I was sentenced, and this is crazy because Michigan has some, laws. You have to, you don't know about the laws until you're in trouble. And man, when I got in trouble, and my lawyer told me, you're facing a 20-year mandatory minimum. I said, for some drugs? I couldn't believe it. I'm like, and what that meant that no matter what my prior record, if I never had any type of record, because of the amount of drugs, the judge was forced to give me this amount of time. So for this amount of time, I was, he had to give me 20 years. So when I first went to prison, I had 22 to 30 years. But I told myself that I wasn't finna do 22 years. And so, you get in there, you learn the law library, you learn about your crime. And fortunately for me, and that, the laws changed. So, it changed the sentencing. So, and I've been home. March 27th will be 12 years home for me. And thank you. And man, my fear was coming out, going back, because I was like, when I came home, I was 44, and I'm like, what can I do at 44, So still having that fear of going back, that I might resort back to selling drugs, it was just a big fear.
And look what you did.
Look what I did, you know what I'm saying?
You're a successful barber.
So, if you want to change, you can change.
Yeah.
You can.
And I think it also helps that you did have community, right? That was supportive of you.
Absolutely.
I think that is such a big deal, right? I mean, I always go back to the kids, because I feel like it's this transitional thing that takes place, right? If we don't help our babies out, then they just grow up to be these bigger people that have the same, problems. And so I think about working in the juvenile system, where it's like you have to talk to these kids, say, at 17, you are on your own. And we don't really have this good transitional period for them to kind of get them into adulthood, right? We kind of say, okay, you are an adult right now, right? You are now an adult. And they're not. They're still babies, right? And they have not really been equipped to handle real life, and then they do resort to different things. They they learn what's around them, and it's just this whole thing that takes place, and they end up in the system, when really we could have given them better opportunity and better resources to help them understand life. So and I got just an area of accountability. Like I said, I've been going in for about 28 years into the prison system. And I got to be careful, I guess, because I still want to go in, but I want to make sure I don't get sideways with anybody in the prison system. But healthcare. Yes, I would get to it. Yes, I would get to it. Yes. It
just frustrates me, and I'm sorry, it just frustrates me, because the healthcare is not good. guys that I go in and they're in the same condition they were in, and I go, well, just go to the infirmary, or where you go? Can't go. They can't do it, and they don't, and they can't go. And so that, to me, is one of those areas that I would hope, I would pray that they would catch up with, to say healthcare, better healthcare. I know you're incarcerated, and I know they're prisoners, but at least give them some good healthcare to help them out. So that's really an area I think is vitally important.
No, I'm glad you got, because I could go on all day about this. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it, so.